This film reveals the deep flaws in the future fit plans proposed by our local clinical commissioning groups, CCGs, to reshape the services our hospitals provide the communities of Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin and Mid Wales. And it will highlight why so many people believe that future fit could seriously damage our health. And future fit is no longer a vision of joined up health and social care services. It's just a desperate attempt to cope with the tragic underfunding of the NHS by cutting services. Future Fit means closing one of the county's 2 A&E departments, which serve some 600,000 people in Shropshire and Mid Wales in an area 3.5 times the size of London. Its favoured option is to shut down the A&E at the PRH in Telford and move its new £28 million Women and Children's Centre to the RSH in Shrewsbury, while locating all routine procedures and operations to Telford. The alternative is to close the A&E at the RSH and base all planned care in Shrewsbury. Future Fit means expensive new buildings, but as well as the loss of one A&E, 330 fewer nurses, 40 fewer medical beds in our hospitals, patients and their families having to travel further to get the care they need, and more cuts in future years as funds meant for healthcare are used to pay off the loans which make up much of Future Fit's enormous £312 million cost. Sick or injured patients will no longer be able to present themselves at their nearest A&E department. Instead, they'll have to be assessed at an urgent care centre, most likely run by a private company. Retired radiologist Dr. Richard Fitzgerald has grave concerns.
Well, I think firstly there's the issue of reduction in capacity. When one goes to A&E currently, either in Telford or in Shrewsbury, they're very, very busy places. So the idea that you're going to have one A&E and it's going to be able to cope as well is fantasy. And one's treatment is delayed by 40 minutes by that extra journey along the M54 in whichever direction you're going. The outcomes can be significantly worse. It could either be death or lifelong disability.
Dr. Fitzgerald is also concerned that the urgent care centre staff will not have the specialist skills needed to treat a wide range of emergencies.
And to have urgent care centres that are not staffed by emergency medicine doctors, it's an unsafe system that they're proposing. And to be honest, I fear for the future if it's implemented.
A severe asthma sufferer who's been rushed to hospital many times over the last few years told us of her fears. She's asked to remain anonymous.
3 times back in 2016, I was taken to ITU from obviously the A&E department. If it would have had to be going up to Shrewsbury, to be honest, I don't think we would have made it.
She believes that the kind of emergency care that has saved her life at the PRH should be available at the RSH too.
We need both Telford and Shrewsbury Hospital for both people who've got life-threatening illnesses and things. You know, it's not fair on either town, really.
Hannah Pugh from Brookside in Telford knows that only too well. She believes that if she hadn't had access to the Women and Children's Centre at the PRH when she went into labour in January this year, it could have ended very differently.
So I was having a normal labour and everything was going well, and 4 hours in, all of a sudden the baby's heartbeat dropped. And it became an emergency caesarean, category 1, which means immediate threat to life, and the team responded so fast, and I feel very lucky that within the short time that they were able to respond meant that I had a healthy boy. Without that very quick response, I would have had a baby boy that was either brain damaged or unfortunately would have passed away.
Hannah is very clear that the Women and Children's Unit and A&E should stay at the PRH.
It's important that the Women and Children's Centre remains in Telford because it's closer to where most of the pregnancies are, 2 out of 3 women, and it's also closer to where the more complex births happen, such as mine. And so with that, it is very important that A&E stays as well within that, because in those emergencies you need the staff there.
Jan Smith has cared for her son Matthew all his life. He has multiple disabilities and a serious heart condition, and frequently requires stays of up to 6 months in hospital. Whether he's in the RSH or PRH, Jan travels every day from Market Drayton to visit him and to provide essential support to the nurses and doctors who care for him. Jan's dedication is extraordinary, all the more so when you realise that she's entirely reliant on public transport. A direct bus service used to run from the bottom of a road to the PRH, but it was withdrawn years ago. Travel to the RSH is no easier for Jan.
To get to the RSH, I get a bus from Market Drayton to Shrewsbury. I have to wait for a connection then up to the hospital, so 2 bus journeys. Takes me roughly about an hour and a half, depending on the connection, and that would cost me about £12 a day, I think. That's just for the bus. On a Sunday, there's no bus service to Shrewsbury, so on a Sunday it would be, well, I have 2 options. I either get the bus over on the Saturday and book into a travel lodge for Saturday night and Sunday night, so I'm there and then come back on the bus on the Monday. And the taxi from here to Shrewsbury one way is, depending on taxi, £30 or £35, so you can be talking £70 round trip.
To make matters worse, Jan has to find the cost of all this travel from her own meagre resources.
The only income I have is a carer's allowance, which is £63 a week, so the £70 in itself is more than my main income for the whole week.
And to add insult to injury, when Matthew is in hospital, Jan's carer allowance is stopped. Jan is not alone among those, particularly in rural areas, who are already struggling to support their loved ones and the NHS. But if Future Fit goes ahead, more and more people will face the same challenge. The CCGs launched a public consultation on its plans on the 30th of May, but that consultation contradicts the very spirit of the NHS. In asking us to choose which A&E to close, it drives a wedge between our communities and between our 2 much-needed hospitals. And in any case, the CCGs have made clear that they won't be bound by the public response. Nevertheless, it's important that we make our voices heard. We urge everyone to fill in the consultation document, which you can find online at www.nhsfuturefit.org, and to reject this misguided and potentially dangerous scheme. Tell the CCGs you strongly disagree with both proposals. Tell them to think again and come up with better and properly funded plans. Future Fit is not fit for purpose, and Future Fit could seriously damage our health.
It's a thing that I'm very passionate about, and I think everyone needs to stop and listen. It's our future.